We are going to be taking a quick plane ride from Dublin, Ireland, over to Eastbourne, England. I am here with someone I've mentioned many times on this podcast, Simon Leslie. If you're like me and are fascinated by the UK, have you ever considered studying abroad in London or even moving there? Simon co-founded Inc., the largest travel media company, so think in-flight magazines and airport television. He's also a speaker, motivational poet, coach, author of the books Equanimity, There's No F in Sales, Feel Good, and Wipeout Thinking. His current passion is building world-class soccer teams in Eastbourne, and today we are going to acquire the British perspective of life after high school, as well as their decision day process. So let's see if I'm on a plane to the UK before we even finish recording this episode. I'm Leah Leverage, a class of 2022 high school graduate exploring every path to success after senior year. Let's expand your mind to what's out there and narrow down your options so you can make a graduation decision with confidence. You're listening to Decision Day.
The Decision Day podcast is brought to you by the Rise Up Record event in Nashville, Tennessee. Rise up and share your story through video. Visit riseandrecord.com for more.
So I am here with Simon. How are you doing?
I am great.
Thank you so much for coming on. You said when we texted you were joining us from London. Did you grow up there? Where did you grow up? Because you're not there right now.
I was actually born in Cardiff, which is Wales. And then I moved to London when I was 13 years old, 12 years old. And so going into school as a 12-year-old is always a bit tougher. So it was a bit brutal. I had to make my mark. And I had 3 or 4 years of being at school, some days not so much. I wasn't the greatest student in the world. I certainly wasn't the greatest pupil, as the teachers kept reminding me. And they told me that I wouldn't amount to much. So they were wrong.
What? I was just what I was going to ask you. What kind of student were you like in high school?
You know, some people learn in different ways. And I think that, unfortunately, schools are taught to teach you in a certain way and you all have to follow the plan. And that's the way it is. And if you don't learn in that way, it's really tough for you. I left school at 16. But I've never ever stopped. There's not been a day I don't think that I'm learning something, and I'm learning from people all the time. And I always sort of describe myself as a lifelong learner, and I want to keep learning. So it wasn't the learning that I disliked. I guess it was just the process and the delivery method. I don't know if they're still like that, but in those days, if you were going to affect their scoring rating, they didn't want you in. They didn't want you about because they only wanted pupils to make them look good.
Well, where were you supposed to go? They throw you out on the street?
Back then, you could leave at 16 and you could go and do a job, and that's what I did. Many years later, I went back and I studied. I studied at Harvard. I studied at Kellogg. So I spent quite a bit of time in the States. And I'll never forget sitting in this amazing environment of Harvard, and all these guys have been paid for by their company to go and have a week there and just learn the best they could. And I was answering questions that they were struggling with because they were overthinking it. And I was just like, no, just that, and that. It was something I needed just to remind myself that I hadn't missed out by not going to university. I hadn't missed out on anything. And I just felt like they were wasting an opportunity to be in this environment and not take advantage of it. Most of them were on their phone most of the time, and it was sad. But what it did, it reaffirmed to me that you don't always have to get great grades at school to go on and do great things.
Now, are you familiar with the term decision day? I've been asking a lot of people and I've been getting a lot of no's recently. You're not.
No. Every day's a decision day, isn't it?
I mean, yes, for us, it was like a specific day in school where you're meant to decide, and then you've got to wear your college merch to school, and it can feel very isolating if you are undecided or you don't want to go to college. So did you guys have something like that in your own way?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
And I still don't think they do. None of my kids went to university, and so I don't think they spend that too much time. And that wasn't my influence at all, because by this point I'm pro-education, but that was the decisions that they took, that they wanted to do what they wanted to do, and I think they're enjoying life.
In what ways are you pro-education?
I think that it's important to understand how to do the basics well. Maths, English, I think it's really important to travel. I think everything that happened to me came from traveling. So, if you can get, as part of the schooling that there's overseas travel or international travel or working with less well-off people than yourselves, then I think it's really, really powerful to learn and see the world and get a different perspective.
I'm gonna have to agree with that one. Any excuse to travel is great. So is university or college in England viewed as kind of elite, like some are over here? Like you mentioned Harvard, that's kind of like the top one over here.
Yeah. Obviously we've got the best ones, and we've got not so good ones where a lot of them went to the University of Life, which is what we used to call it. So, let's go out there and learn for ourselves and see what we can do. The last couple of years, especially with COVID, university's been such a up and down in terms of, they were war zones during COVID because all these students were sort of locked in their dorms and they couldn't do things. And now you're seeing kids coming out of university with incredible amounts of debt around their neck, that huge weight around their neck, and then having to work that off, and they're not getting themselves better jobs because of it half the time. Now, listen, if you're going to the top university, you shouldn't have any problem getting a job, but even some of them are struggling to. I've seen kids coming out of Oxford and Cambridge, and going on graduate programs. Well, they could have gone on graduate programs without 100 grand's worth of debt.
Yeah. So the debt is similar over there because it can be quite crippling over here. Do you think it's around the same?
I don't think it's as bad, but it's not far off.
Okay.
I remember employing somebody, and she said to me, "I've got $180,000 of college debt." I'm like, "It'll take you forever to pay that off. I mean, it's crazy. It's like having a mortgage."
Oh my God. Yes. Wow. Okay.
And she hadn't been to anywhere fancy. It was just, sort of middle America colleges. But sometimes when people keep going back because they don't know what they want to do, and that goes back to your decision day. How do you ask somebody at that age what do you want to do? I'm a lot older and I haven't got a clue what I want to do with my life yet. I'm still practicing and learning. But I think it's really hard to make a decision that where and what you're going to be for the rest of your life.
So how should we cope with that instead of having to make that life-altering decision?
You've got to make a decision for now. What's going to suit you now, and be flexible enough to understand that life's going to change. Whatever you like at 18 is not what you like at 20, and when you're 25, and you meet somebody that you met in Barcelona, then life's going to be completely different as well. And I think that you've just got to be flexible enough to understand that am I going to plant myself in a pot that's big enough for me to grow in, but not too small that I can't develop. And then when you outgrow that pot, you go to the next pot and the next pot. And this is what it's like at work. Too many people do the first job and quit because they got offered a little bit more money. But sometimes there's far more growth in that first company, because your first job is really important, because you're learning everything you need to know about yourself, about work, and what you're good at, what you're bad at. And I see too many people come and leave because they get offered some more money, but they're not quite finished learning and growing and developing. And it's also who you have in your life as well. If you have the right mentors. People never leave a company; they always leave a boss. And if you've got a great boss, that's actually priceless in some respects, because they will help you and develop you and nurture you. I used the word groom last week and I got told off, but that's what it is. They will develop you into a much better human being. And that, if you find that sort of person, stick around as long as you can. And sometimes, getting a bit more money isn't the right solution.
Okay, so what is your perspective on education in the US, comparing it to education in the UK, since you've mentioned you've had experience with both?
What I noticed more is more 18, 19 and 20-year-olds in the UK would go straight to work, whereas in the States it was sort of either frowned upon or not even, just didn't happen. And as I was leaving Inc., I was starting to attract more sort of 19 and 20-year-olds pre-university students to come and work with us because we're really having huge successes. And what happens is, your friend works for me and he says, "Oh my God, this company's great. Everybody's thinking we're doing all these cool things. We're going to Super Bowl, we're going to England, we're seeing the world." And everyone goes, "Well, I can either do that or I can now get myself another, 70, 80,000 worth of debt and spend the next couple of years not guaranteeing anything special. So let's get on the ladder." But you know, it's difficult, right? Because you also want to enjoy yourself. University is not
Mhm.
just about education; it's about the parties, it's about all that stuff. But you can do that at work as well. So I think it's a fine balance. I think if you're strapping yourself up with so much debt, you've got to say to yourself, it should be worth 10x whatever your debt is. And I don't think the answer to that is yes anymore. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can go to university and say, when I get out of university, I'm guaranteed the job I want on the money I want.
Now, you mentioned hiring 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Are there certain things that we should be doing at that age to make us look more credible as we enter the professional world?
The best applicant I ever had, I think he must have been 18. Uh, he sent me his CV, and his CV had a tea bag stapled to the back of it. And the accompanying letter says, "Here's a CV. Yeah, it's probably the same as all the other CVs you've seen already. I'm really good. And by the way, I make a mean cup of tea." And I just thought that was so creative, and it was a creative role he wanted. And I thought, how could I not invite him in? And I think it's just that little thing that will differentiate you, might get you the interview. I've done over 1,000 interviews, right? And this is the right answer. Look, you must have read 100 CVs, resumes. Sorry, they're all the same. Tells you what we've done, but that doesn't tell you who I am. So let me tell you who I am. I'm the person that will be an ambassador for your company. If I need to be first in and last out, so I will. And if you give me a target, I'll smash it. And when you hire new people, I'll train them, I'll coach them, I'll mentor them. I really want to work within your organization. I love what you do. I love your brand. I love what it stands for. And I want to be part of the culture that will help you grow. And I want to be somebody who, your future employees can look up to. If I've got a problem, I'll ask for help, but I'll always try and find a solution. And if there isn't one, I'll find somebody who knows how to find one. I promise you, if someone sat in front of me and said that, I'd say, right, when can you start?
Wow. Okay. For the listener right now that has a job interview coming up, take all that down. We got to save this in a in a vault, in a bag. That was great.
I spent most of my life doing sales. Sales is the interview. You're fixing someone else's problem. That's all you're doing. They're not hiring you because they want to pay you money to do nothing. They're hiring you because they want you to help them fix their problem. And if you know what their problem is and what the role is, you just add that into that mix. And you can do the same for every role. And if you do that, you're guaranteed to outsmart any other candidate because people do not say that. They really don't. They don't know
Wow.
how to. I don't know why.
So, when you were in high school and you said that you left at 16, did you have that plan in quotes for life after high school, or were you just kind of figuring it out?
I just wanted to make some money.
Okay.
The first 17 years of my working life was all about making as much money as I could, being as successful as I could, and not focusing on anything that took me away from that. And it sort of worked, but it's very much up and down. So, you make a lot of money, you spend a lot of money,
Hmm.
you then have to work harder to make a lot of money. And well, actually, I didn't get very far. I had some nice wins and some big losses, and I think that um, I learned a lot. But this is your phase between 18 and 30. Take your risks. Do things which absolutely fill you with fear, and do them anyway. Because as you get older and you get mortgages and cars and bills, it's much harder to do that. Whereas now, this is the time of your life you can experiment so many different things. But the other thing that's really important is you're going to make some amazing contacts. And I don't mean like business contacts, I just mean friends, people who will be with you for the rest of your life.
Since you jumped right into the workforce at 16 at a young age. Do you feel that that helped you become ahead? Like you were ahead of everyone else who maybe went to school? You got a jump start?
That's interesting. I mean, I'm not particularly friendly with anybody who I went to school with. One of them has ended up in prison as a fraudster.
Whoa.
Um, but that, that gives you an example. When you look at somebody, everyone thought he was doing brilliantly, and he was running this huge wealth management company, and next thing, it's the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. And you just think, wow, you know, like 90% of people looking at him thinking, oh, he's amazing, isn't he clever, and everything else. And I think some, the ones that went on to become lawyers and doctors and accountants, they've become professionals. I think that's very different. But if
Hmm.
you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to surround yourself with like-minded people. And I think if you want a profession, then go and do the studying. But if you're not gonna do something like that, then you've got to hang around with people who are going to bring out the best in you. I did a talk to a load of 15-year-olds last week, and I was really impressed with the manifesto the school had. And one of their things is every one of us has something in us, and
Hmm.
and it's you know when that's going to come out and when that's going to shine, nobody knows quite yet. And I spent most of my career trying to find what that thing was in most people and try and bring it out and help them to achieve things that they didn't think they were capable of. And I'm trying to do the same now with a bunch of footballers here in Eastbourne.
Yeah. If you did that path at 16, well, since you did that path at 16, if you had to take the same path now in 2023, would you have, or would you have done something different?
The advice I would give my younger self has always been find mentors quicker. I didn't have anyone around me that was experienced enough to help me in those difficult times. So everything I did was by making mistakes.
Okay. Do you think you would have gotten to where you are quicker if you had the mentors?
I think it's one of those sliding door questions, isn't it? Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And isn't that part of the process? The process is going through those learning moments, going through those lessons, meeting people, meeting the wrong people, meeting the right people. When I wrote White Belt Thinking, it suddenly dawned on me that I was every character in the book. So every character was me at a different point in my life. One day I was the main character, next minute I'm the mentor, next minute I'm the guardian, next minute I'm the coach. And I'm thinking, I played all these parts, and I think that's what starting early gave me was an opportunity to play lots of parts and learn lots of things from lots of people.
So you call yourself Lucky, and your website is literally luckyleslie.com. And I've briefly talked about this in a past episode, but I'd love to hear it directly from the source. Can you explain what it means to truly be lucky or to believe that you're lucky?
One of the questions I used to ask people in an interview was, "Are you lucky?" And if they said, "No, I'm not really lucky," I say, "Well, the interview's finished now because I don't hire lucky people." And I think it goes back to beliefs and faith, and um, if you believe you are something, then you can become something. And I'd rather be lucky. It's a nice quality to have.
So you're very knowledgeable when it comes to mindset and motivation. So looking at the decision for life after high school through that lens, if a high schooler came to you not knowing what they wanted to do after graduation, what would you tell them?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry that you don't know what to do. It doesn't matter. Go and test a few. I don't like the word try. Go and test a few things and see what you like. Some of the best people I've met have worked it out on the third or fourth iteration of their careers before they actually found something they were really good at. And you know, there's all this mumbo jumbo about follow your passion and everything. You know, sometimes that's right, sometimes that's wrong. You can be passionate about something. I'm passionate about football. It's bloody hard. Most people fail in football. So, you know, that's all well and good. But if you're going to do something which is really, really tough to do in the first place, then you're going to be disappointed. Follow what you're good at. And the only way you will work out who you are and what you stand for is to go through the days, the work, the stories, the people, the conversations, the stuff that happens at the water cooler. That's why, when too many people work from home, they're not involved deeply enough in the company. You miss things that are going on. So it's
Hmm.
really important to be part of that inner circle of what's going on in an office.
So I finish every interview now with the same last question, just to get your perspective. What mistakes do you see young people making?
They're jumping too quickly. That's the biggest mistake they're making. They're not staying around. They're impatient. They want success way too quickly, and success takes time. And you'll never see it. Even if you see it when you're 21 and you make millions, it's too early. You need to go and learn and experience it and have some fun and take some risks. And you got this conflict where people are too scared to take risks, but they want to get this amazing success, and they want the same success. They look at other people on whatever on social and go, I want to be like him or her. And
it's draining.
Never wish to be somebody else. Just wish for yourself to be the best version of you. And start noticing, start being kinder, start being gracious and grateful. You will go a lot further in life if you just find these nice qualities, and people will do anything for anybody anymore. And the last one is, whatever you're doing, find the person who's the most successful in your company and spend time with them. So spend time with the right people. That's the best bit of advice I give everybody starting. The best people are always happy to help you. They never say, I'm too busy, because they know what it's like. That if you help enough people, it repays itself somewhere down the road.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I always love any opportunity to talk to you or listen to you speak, because like I said, I always take something. So I know you're also going to want Simon Leslie and his content to appear on your homepages. So where can they follow you and how can they support you?
So you can go to luckyleslie.com. The club's on TikTok, so follow the club on TikTok and keep sharing. Buy our kits, support us. This is a really big community project, and I want us to be famous in California and New York and Idaho, anywhere.
Okay. Share your thoughts and graduation decisions with us. My usernames are @DecisionDayPodcast and @LeahLeverage. If you like this episode or got value out of it in any way, please leave a review, rate the podcast 5 stars. We hope that this was very impactful for you. Share it with your friends or other high school students. And thank you so much for listening. I can't wait to share a new perspective with you in the next episode. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Day podcast. If you know a student in high school, ask them to listen or share an episode with them. And as always, we love hearing from you. Share your stories with us on social, Decision Day Podcast. Until next week. Decision Day Podcast is sponsored by the Rise and Record event, Nashville, Tennessee. RiseandRecord.com for more info.